Next, we have Tom Snyder of RIoT. For those of you who are unfamiliar with RIoT, it's Regional Internet of Things. Started as Raleigh Internet of Things, but when it took off like wildfire, they had to change the name. So clever that that worked out for you that way. Tom's going to come up and tell us about their new and soon-to-be launched accelerator. Tom, welcome.
All right, thank you, Krista. So, and I'll be fairly brief, so I know everybody's busy. How many folks have been out to a RIoT before? Fantastic. So thanks for that. The Internet of Things is a buzzword, but it's got some significant impact behind it. If you think back, mechanized production, electricity, the internet. These were the things that spurred the first three industrial revolutions. And most economists believe that the Internet of Things, this idea of connecting everything to the internet and generating data at, as they call it, at the edge, data kind of being generated everywhere, together with the powerful computation capabilities that we now have with cloud computing, is going to completely change the game in terms of how we live our lives, in terms of how we do business, medicine, transportation, so on and so forth. And so RIoT was formed about 4 years ago to help really establish this region as a center of excellence, perhaps the center of excellence in IoT business generation and economic development. We operate as a nonprofit organization under the Wireless Research Center of North Carolina. If you haven't been up there, we'd love to show you that facility up in Wake Forest. That's a world-class testing facility in the wireless space and engineering services. But over our 4 years, we have formed an organization. We have over 6,000 participants, primarily across the Southeast, although we're growing quite significantly across the United States now. Over 60 companies that sponsor and organize RIoT events that we hold, or we call them RIoTs, where we get people together, we help educate about business opportunities in the IoT space, about technologies that can be applied horizontally across lots of different market verticals, and we help these sponsoring organizations to capture business opportunity. What I'm real excited about is about just over a year ago, we started what we call RIoT Labs, which was focused very specifically on entrepreneurship, on startup generation, on startup support. We run a physical space in partnership with HQ Raleigh in downtown Raleigh, but we work closely with Frontier, with American Underground, with ETDC down in Atlanta, with Launch Factory down in Charlotte. Folks that are kind of all over the region, and that's growing pretty rapidly, where we want to provide all the support and resources that we can to IoT startups. And if you're not sure if you're in IoT or not, please talk to us. Likely you are, or if you're not, you need to be coming up soon. So it's a pretty broad term. Over the 4 years that we've been around, we've been able to look back at 40 to 42 companies that we've worked with that have collectively raised about $275 million, created several hundred jobs. And last summer, we applied to a program run by the Department of Commerce, a division of commerce called the Economic Development Administration out in Washington, D.C. And they awarded us a $500,000 grant that we matched with some corporate support to launch a formal accelerator to do what we've done with these 42 companies over the past several years and say, well, let's develop a program where we can bring more companies through, try and create more success, create more jobs. And so we're excited. We call it the RIoT Accelerator Program. Not a real creative name, but if anyone has new ideas on whether RAP is the right name or not, we'd love to talk about that. This is going to run, the first cycle of the program is going to run mid-May through mid-August this year. There's an application portal that's open now. It's on our website, ncriot.org. It's easy to find. There's a form that you download and fill out, and then once you've filled out that PDF, which I expect is maybe an hour or so of thoughtful work, then you can submit, and there's a little bit of demographic detail that we captured. Again, if you're not sure if you're IoT or not, I encourage you to apply. We'll reach back out and try and give feedback to all applicants as we're able to. We want to know about your organization if we haven't met with you already. If you want to come down and visit RIoT Labs and learn more and talk one-on-one, please reach out. My contact information is on the website. It's just tom@ncriot.org, so real easy. We're a bit agnostic to stage. I think that our sweet spot historically has been working with fairly early stage ventures. We've worked with a number of companies that, an entrepreneur came to us just with an idea, having no idea what to do. In many cases, the entrepreneurs knew the application space that they worked in. They understood a problem that needed to be solved that had some value if it were solved, but didn't know, how to bring the technology into play. We've also worked with folks that, engineers and developers that really understood how to build stuff but had no idea on the business side. So we'll help you find co-founders if you need that kind of support. We'll point you to resources in Wade's program at NC State. If there's, you're thinking about some piece of research that's come from the university and you're looking for how do I commercialize that, how do I build that, we work very closely with that office and with Duke and with Carolina and others. So even if you feel like maybe things aren't fully baked, we can work with you. If you have some traction and you've already got some customers, maybe you've raised a seed round, you're on your way, but there's some problem that you need help with. Maybe it's figuring out, how do I scale? Maybe it's, I've got an initial customer, how do I start to develop out secondary revenue streams, other customers? That's one of the questions in the application. We really want to understand, why would you want to be in an accelerator program? How do you perceive that we can help? And where we see that right fit, those are the teams that we want to work with. We're looking for folks that are coachable, quite honestly. If you already know 100% what you need to do, you don't need us. But none of us are that way. We're not that way ourselves, so we'll ask questions back. We'll seek help. But aside from kind of the dedicated resources within the RIoT organization itself, we've also got this huge list of companies. Most of them are big household name technology companies, semiconductor, wireless, data and analytics, and so on. We'll help you to build those relationships and build that network out, whether those are folks that are partners, so that you can focus on your core competence, and then the other things that you need in maybe some product stack, some technical stack, we can bring we can bring in an IBM or a Verizon or a Samsung or whoever that might be to work with you. Maybe those become customers that you have something that you want to get introduced at the right level to a big potential customer. We can help with those relationships, and then many of those folks are also going to be serving as some of the mentors in the program. Accelerator programs are often, I believe, succeed or fail based on the network and on the kind of the mentors and coaches and things that they can bring into a program. And so we've got a deep network of folks that local here in the region, folks that have created their own companies, had exits, folks that are very, very high in these corporate organizations that are looking to give back. And then also one of the things that we're going to do that will be a little bit different is we're working with a number of companies that are, they're a few years in, maybe haven't reached that exit yet, but are well on their way. We have some younger founders that are going to come in, and we're trying to do that very purposefully to have as diverse a set of mentors in the program as possible. Something for some of the younger entrepreneurs, maybe to see faces that look familiar to them, so they're not just talking to old white guys like me. We want to promote as much diversity and inclusion as we can. We're absolutely looking for female founders. We're looking for founders of color. It is a full-time program, so at least one person from the company needs to be able to participate full-time from mid-May through mid-August in the program. But aside from that, it's a pretty open pipe. So with that, I'll pause. I know that you've already had a lot of patience, heard a couple of great presentations today. I'll be happy to take any questions now formally, and then I can stick around afterwards as well to take some one-on-one discussions if anybody would like to.
Any questions?
Okay, hey, thanks. So I know this is your first round of doing this.
Yeah.
Does the accelerator, I guess I didn't get this, will the accelerator be in the Raleigh space, in the Wake Forest space, kind of where will, or here, I don't know, where will that ultimately end up being?
Yeah, no, great question, because I didn't mention that. So physically, we'll be in our downtown Raleigh location is where the teams will sit. I describe it as a full-time commitment. About 20 or 25% of the regular work week, if you will be facilitated programming, where there will be speakers that are coming in, there will be workshops and things that the teams will do. The rest of the time, the teams are expected to do work, and we'll project manage these teams. They'll have weekly KPIs and things that they need to hit and so on. So there's not a requirement that teams sit full-time 40 hours a week in our space, but they should be full-time dedicated on the program. Yep.
So one of the things you first mentioned is companies may not know if they're in that space. Out of the 42 companies that you had go through the program, can you give us some examples to see what the background is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great thought. So a couple companies I'll name specifically. We have one is a company called Focus Labs. That there was a school psychologist that recognized that students with mild autism and with ADHD often struggled to stay on task in school, and it affected their educational outcomes. And he had an idea for a wearable device that would help through providing some kind of random and unexpected vibrations once in a while, just a little buzz, would help students to kind of stay alert and stay on task. Knew nothing about tech, helped bring the right team and resources and expertise to him, a space to work out of. You fast forward to, I think he's maybe 3 years, 2.5, 3 years into this venture now, over $1 million in revenue, just about to close a significant funding round now. Another example in industrial IoT, so that's one where the wearable device, actually his first generation didn't even have a wireless radio or any connectivity at all. So you might not say that's IoT. He's now launching a second generation product where there's data that will be collected and shared back to school systems, and they can do things to improve teaching and effective methods. So there's a company that wasn't even IoT, but we recognized that the future and success of that company would be data that be collected and connectivity. In the industrial space, worked with a company called ProAction. They developed a sensor that attaches on any kind of rotating machinery. So anything with a motor, basically. And it tracks vibration, temperature, a few other things that are under the hood, and does analytics, and they can, with very high degree of accuracy, help a facility that has any of this equipment to understand when that equipment's about to fail. So that you can go in, and instead of doing what manufacturing operations in particular do today, which is every 6 months somebody comes in and does maintenance, whether you need maintenance or not, instead they're just in time managing equipment, keeping themselves operational at a near 100% run rate, while making the cost of doing that really, really low. A third example I'll give, just to show a little bit of variety, is last year we run a pitch event every summer, and last year the team that won the pitch event was a company called Brewview. And Brewview was founded by a guy who had moved here from Ohio, had moved to Chapel Hill, was trying to decide whether or not to get a real job. He had come out of the medical robotics area, or whether to do something entrepreneurial. Had heard about RIoT, came to us, and they have developed a very simple device that a bar owner can order online, get shipped in the mail. Within 5 minutes, they can drop little sensors on each tap handle in their bar. And that sensor can detect very, very accurately what the level of beer in a keg is. And what they can do then is provide information back to the supply chain. Today, what the beer supply chain, all these companies, distributors, they just drive around with trucks full of beer, really, really heavy, fuel inefficient, drive around client to client and go into a freezer and lift up a keg and say, well, it's about half full or not, right? It's completely wasteful. If the keg's empty, that was a missed sales opportunity for that bar because they didn't have a new keg in time. If it's a full, it was a waste of time for the distributor, right? So they sell this data back to the distributors. They sell it to the bar owners who understand waste and theft. There's a lot of beer that just gets poured down the drain or handed out as free drinks. They're able to track that information. And breweries, they spend millions on ad campaigns, and they have no idea if those ad campaigns connected to how the beer was actually consumed, right? So very, very simple. It's an accelerometer, right? Very, very simple, low cost. They've just signed a deal with Heineken here a couple of years after founding the company. So there's many other examples, but whether you're in the medical space, we've done stuff in healthcare, transportation, autonomous vehicles. We've got experts kind of across our network.
Any other questions? All right, thanks a
All
lot.
right, thank you much.
All right, we're nearing the end. This is going to be real quick, but we cannot leave without acknowledging our special guest from Nagoya University this morning. Maybe you could all stand, but Randy and David, if you'll come up and give us a little bit of background.
Thanks. I'm David McNeil from NC State University. You've seen this guy all the time. You might get tired of him talking about getting you involved with NC State students. So one of the privileges we have is hosting a famous university in Japan. One of the elite 7 Ivy League schools there is Nagoya University. So if you guys would stand up, we have a group here for a 2-week training on entrepreneurship. These are young scientists. So they all have wonderful ideas, and they're here to learn how to make those into products and get them into their companies. Fukai Sensei is their professor. Takanaga Sensei is their other professor. And then locally we have Koyama Sensei, who is the local representative for Nagoya University. So, welcome. So he represents the university nationwide here for Nagoya, and specifically on tech transfer. So he has tech coming from Nagoya University that he is trying to find folks to partner with here. So if you would like to talk to him, his office is just 5 minutes away. So thank you.
Excellent. And are you able to stick around in case people are interested in the program?
Yeah, we'll be around.
All right, very good. All right, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here and welcome. Before we disperse, does anybody have any community announcements they'd like to share? Anything going on that the rest of us need to know about? Mark, just stand up and shout out.
This is totally baseless. Sheets just opened a new gas station. It's 1.9 miles from here, and they're charging $2.17 a gallon for gas. But since you're all entrepreneurs, I know you like to save money.
That's right, save on gas. $2.17
It's
a
just
gallon at the new Sheets down the road.
Just
Thanks.
down Davis Drive.
Very good. Anybody else? One final shout out. Okay, well,
Yeah, I'm Gerald Bonner. I also am a volunteer American Red Cross director, and if anybody wants to be a volunteer for the American Red Cross in the area, just come and give me a shout. Thanks.
one final shout out I would like to make is a big thank you for our colleague, fellow organizer Casey this morning, who unfortunately had to scramble a lot to make it happen today technologically. So thank you all for your patience as we refine the process. But you kind of got a glimpse of the behind-the-scenes things that we have to sometimes deal with on the fly. So thank you all. Hope to see you all back next week. Thanks.